Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dr. Dan, and we're talking about the three phases of care. So in the first video, we broke down phase one testing and why people struggle to get answers and what the difference is between truly effective testing and just your run-of-the-mill testing. So now we're actually talking about the second phase, which is treatment. So when it comes to treatment, it needs to be based on both subjective and objective findings. What I mean by that is subjective is how you feel, what you say, what you notice, your chief complaints, and what your health goals are, right? And objective is actually what we find in the labs. And what we do is we combine the two. We find that it's way more effective this way. Treatment needs to be based on your chief complaints, your health goals. Like what are you after? If you're after just a little bit of recovery, are you after correction? What are you after? And we need to understand that. Then we look at the lab results, we look at your health history, and we also want to know what you've tried that didn't work. What have you tried and it didn't work? And so we need to know that because we're not going to do something that was ineffective for you. And so we combine all this together, and that takes some truly investigative work to put all these pieces together. So that's one of the things that we do before we come back together and review your labs with you, and come up with a treatment plan. All these things have come together. And so you don't want to just treat the labs. That's what happens in the hospital. And you don't want to just treat what a person says because that's the symptoms. So we got to dig in and combine those two, right? And that's an integrative approach. And so the basics of a functional integrative approach, and a lot of people do functional medicine, and that's where you dig into root cause. Integrative is where you combine, conventional medicine with natural medicine, and we do both. We do functional integrative medicine, and the basis of functional medicine is remove what's not supposed to be there, replace it with what is, and then restore normal function. And that's the basics, and that's what our program is going to do for you. And we're going to go through that process. So let's break that down. The first thing is remove. So what are we typically removing? Well, the one is, and you'd be surprised, and I'd say in 80% of our patient population, are pathogens, whether that's a bacteria in their gut, some form of yeast that's actually there. There's no guesswork here. We're actually identifying these things. You might have a chronic infection like Epstein-Barr virus that's replicating, or cytomegalovirus. So the first thing that we want to do is remove any pathogens that aren't supposed to be there because they're just inflaming you and throwing off your immune system. The other thing that we want to remove is your inflammation. We got to bring that inflammation down. And a lot of times, it's our very first step is just calm the flames, to give you some symptomatic relief while we actually work on the root cause. But you have to get rid of that inflammation because I said in the last piece when we were talking about testing is inflammation and stress. They disrupt everything in the body, and especially your hormones. So you have to get that inflammation down. No matter how high or low it is, you have to get inflammation under control. So we have to remove inflammation. We also need to remove nutrient overload. Now, this happens more regularly with iron and stored iron than it does any other vitamin or mineral, but also macronutrients. So your carbs, your proteins, your fats, you can have too many. Did you know, like ketogenic diet, a lot of people do that, but too much fat can actually accumulate in your cells and create insulin resistance. That happens with blood sugar. So a lot of people don't know that. So when it comes to you, we need to make sure that what you're taking in or what you're not getting, the nutrient overload, whether it's your big molecules like carbs, proteins, and fats, or those micronutrients, are not too much. We also have to remove toxins. We have to get rid of the things that are disruptive to your body, like fire retardants, these plastics, your BPAs, the preservatives that are in food, these chemicals that are in your, these estrogenic things that may be in your fabric softener, your air fresheners. And the other thing that we have to remove is the leftover metabolites from your hormones being used. So we call those hormone metabolites. These are all types of endocrine disruptors. So these are what we have to remove. So the first phase is get rid of what's not supposed to be there. And then that takes to the next phase, which is replace. And this is replacing what is actually supposed to be there in order for your body to do its job. One of the first ones is gut bacteria. We focus on that first. Why would we focus on the gut first? Think about that. If your gut doesn't work, you can't absorb your nutrients. You may not even be absorbing the medication. That might be one of your problems. Your medication can't be effective because you can't truly absorb it. So if your gut's not working, if you don't have the right gut bacteria, you have to get that replaced and build those up. You have to replace your missing nutrients. These are essential. Like I said in the first video, these are things your body has to have in order to do its job. We have to replace and supplement your hormone levels and get those, back to where they're supposed to be so that you can feel normal again and get you into that functional range, that optimal range. And also neurotransmitters. This is how your body communicates. This is how your brain and your nerves, they all work. This is the communication signals in your body. And you might be surprised to know that 93% of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. And at right now, you might be going, Dan, I don't know what a neurotransmitter is. You may have heard of serotonin or dopamine. Those are two of the most commonly known neurotransmitters, and most of those are produced by gut bacteria. So we have to get these up to place. We remove what's not supposed to be there, we replace with what is, and then the next step is we fine tune and find balance, and that is the restoration or restore space. And then what are we restoring? Well, we're restoring all these natural systems in your body and their normal function. So this is a calibration of sorts, right? This is where you tune like a guitar. It's like you can put brand new strings on a guitar, but you still have to tune it. And this is the tuning process, is the restoration process. And from your musculoskeletal system to your skin, your respiratory, your cardiovascular, your digestive system, your immune system. So all these systems, bringing these things back into balance. And it's a really delicate process, and it requires a good, knowledgeable team in order to do that. But you have to go through these different phases: remove, replace, and restore. And the key thing is, it has to be based on systems, like the priority of systems. I'm going to go through that in the next slide. It also has to be based on your health priorities. Like, what is the thing that has to be in place before the next thing can be in place, right? It's like building a house. And if you didn't put a foundation in or put your footers in before you poured concrete, well, then you can't build the frame, right? So it has to be based on your body's priorities and how our bodies, we know how they function. You can't just blindly throw a bunch of supplements at someone or even medications and expecting the body to just naturally do what it's supposed to do, because if that was the case, you wouldn't be sick, right? You wouldn't be suffering or wouldn't be having issues. So they also need to be based on your individual needs. Like, what did we find in the labs that actually show your body needs? And then a plan also has to have the flexibility to adapt. And what do I mean by that? Your treatment process has to be able to adapt to all the weird nuances and changes that your body's going to go through, because you're going to go through some things that may be unexpected for you. But I can tell you, after a decade, we pretty much expect anything. We've seen what happens when you start repairing the body. A lot of times it puts resources over here, or it focuses on a problem over here, because that has to be taken care of first. So we have to have a plan that can adapt to the changes and the needs of your body. And that's what a good treatment plan looks like: systems based, based on priorities, based on individual needs, and has the flexibility to adapt. And then it has to be done within a framework. And this is a system. And there's some really good, there's a really good quote here. It's 94% of all failure is due to not having a system. So even though we know what those things need to look like, we still have to have a roadmap or framework. And our framework is, first is what we call a fresh start. Just start making some dietary changes, focus on what your immune system and getting that inflammation under control, right? Like we said, inflammation and stress, we have to get those under control. And then we have a systems based framework to step you through. And each step is based on your individual unique needs. And this does have the ability to fix. But we found that if you do not do it in this order, you don't ever create lasting change. And that's what we're after. We're not just trying to keep you on some type of supplement or something for the rest of your life. We're trying to correct and heal your body. And the healing has to be based on the priorities of your body, your medical and your health priorities. And so the first pillar is detoxification and digestion. That's how you get rid of chemicals. This is how your liver works and what your digestive tract is looking like, from your stomach acid to your digestive enzymes to the microbes in your gut and how often that thing's moving, right? That motility. We have to repair that process, because now that you can absorb. So guess what happens once you can start to absorb? Then we start giving you the nutrition that you need. We can help you figure out a diet that's sustainable long term, that's something that you want to do, right? I don't want to take a bunch of food away from people. I want to give you what you want, but also what you need, and something that's not going to throw you off or cause you to have more problems, but also to address those individual unique needs, those 48 essential nutrients. Are you getting the ones that were particular to you that you were missing? Then you can actually move into hormones. Why would hormones be after that? It's because, well, you have to have the nutrients to make your hormones, and you have to have the gut to absorb and the liver in the gut to get rid of the hormone metabolites that we talked about, these things that just totally disrupt your hormones. So that's why it's there, right? And then the next pillar is exercise. And this is you're moving around, getting active. Exercise is one of the best things that you can do for the brain, but it actually regulates certain hormones and inflammation. It helps regulate autoimmune pathways. But it's great for exercise. It boosts your metabolism in very particular mechanism. We're not talking about it generically, we're talking about the science there. And then the last is brain and nervous system health. I mean, this is the control mechanism for your whole body. So that's probably the most important pillar, is because this is how we keep and sustain long-term healing and get your body balanced, is work on the control mechanisms. Your brain's telling the rest of the body what to do. So that is the second phase that's necessary to reclaim thyroid hormone and gut health. And this is the process of treatment. So we talked about testing, we talked about treatment. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the next phase, which is teaching, the education of how you maintain these changes for the rest of your life. So hope you got some great information. I'll see you on the next video.